the song stories. Reading, singing, laughing, learning, growing. Song stories. Check it out.
Hey friends, today we're reading I Am Martin Luther King Jr. by Brad Meltzer. I am Martin Luther King Jr. When I was little, I used to get into a lot of accidents. One day, my little brother hit me in the head with a baseball bat. 2 other times, I mistakenly got knocked over by a car. Another day, I tumbled over our banister, then bounced through an open door into the basement. Whoa, amazing fall. You okay? I'm okay. No matter how many times I fell, I kept getting back up. Even before I could read, I knew I liked books. My dad always talked about how I kept a lot of books around me. I used to tell my parents, when I grow up, I'm going to get me some big words. There is a power in words. Big words were in my future. When I was 6 years old, one of my best friends was a boy whose father owned a store across the street. Tag, you're it. No, you're it. No, you're it. No, you're it. My friend was white. I was black. It didn't matter to us. We would play games and have fun together. But when we started going to school, everything changed. He went to a school where all the kids were white. I went to a school where everyone was black. Soon after, he told me, I can't play with you anymore. Why? My dad said so. He doesn't want us being friends. But why? You're one of my best friends, aren't you? Aren't you? I didn't understand. It didn't make sense. At dinner, my parents explained, it's because you're black and he's white. I was so mad that day. How could someone treat me differently just because of the color of my skin? I wanted to hate my friend and his father. But my parents told me to do the opposite. That I should love my friend, even though he hurt me. They taught me that it's better to have more love in your life than more hate. Then my mother taught me one of the most important lessons of all. You are as good as anyone. You must never feel that you are less than anyone else. I wanted to believe it, but every day I saw the opposite. I saw you could be treated unfairly just because of the color of your skin. If you were white, you went to a good school, with great playgrounds and plenty of books. If you were black, your school was small, sometimes with no desks or even windows. Check it out, a playground. Check it out, where's our playground? It wasn't just the schools. Black people had to use different water fountains, different elevators, even different bathrooms. In fact, on a hot day when everyone wanted ice cream, if you were white, you could sit at the counter and eat from a nice dish. But since I was black, if they served me at all, it was through a side window and they put my ice cream in a flimsy paper cup. This ice cream is perfect. This ice cream is melted. It got even worse when I was 14. I had just won a speech competition. My speech was about being fair to all people. I was so excited. Then on the bus ride home, a few white people got on board. You need to give up your seats to the whites. At first, I stayed put. It didn't seem fair, but my teacher convinced me to move. We spent the rest of the ride standing and getting tossed in every direction. It was the angriest I have ever been. Every day, this is what life was like. Black people were treated terribly. The only question was, what could I do about it? At the age of 15, I started college. By 19, I became a minister and entered seminary school to study religion. Over those years, I read the works of Henry David Thoreau and Mahatma Gandhi. Thoreau taught me about civil disobedience, how an evil system could be changed without violence. Gandhi opened my mind to the power of nonviolent resistance. What's that? Love. It's using love and peaceful methods to change unfair things in society. It was a lesson I wanted to share with everyone. In no time at all, I got my chance. In Alabama, a black woman named Rosa Parks was told to give up her bus seat to a white man. It was just like what happened to me. But unlike me, Miss Parks refused. She was arrested. Early the next morning, I got a phone call from a local community leader. It's time to take a stand. We should boycott the buses so everyone knows that we won't accept this treatment anymore. You know that's not going to be easy. Do not ask if it's easy. Ask if it's right. It was just like Thoreau taught. Instead of using violence to protest the unfair rules, black people would use a peaceful method. We would not ride the public buses. Without our money, the bus companies would go out of business. Now the only question was, would it work? On the first day of the protest, my wife called me to the window. The buses are all empty. It's working. We had to keep it going. As the head of the bus boycott, I gave one of the most important speeches of my life. The room was packed. Camera crews were filming. I had only 20 minutes to prepare. I didn't use notes, but by speaking from my heart, I found out how big words can be. We are determined here in Montgomery to work and fight until justice runs down like water and righteousness like a mighty stream. When the history books are written in the future, somebody will have to say there lived a race of people, a black people, who had the moral courage to stand up for their rights. The police put me in jail, saying I was breaking the law. Other folks bombed my house, but instead of using my fist, I kept my calm. Don't you want to fight back? I am a man of nonviolence, and I know that I do not stand alone. We are with you all the way, Reverend. If no one rides these buses, we'll go out of business. You're finally getting it, huh? For more than a full year, every black person in the city, and some white people too, refused to ride the buses. That meant some people had to walk for miles, but they kept going. There was a power in standing together. Eventually, our peaceful protest worked. The rules were changed. Public buses could no longer separate people based on the color of their skin. That was only the beginning. Soon, our peaceful protest sparked other peaceful protests. At lunch counters, college students organized sit-ins where they would not stop until everyone could eat together. Our methods of nonviolence were so powerful, I was invited to meet with the president at the White House. But sometimes, the hardest problems were right at home. Daddy, look, an amusement park. Please, can we go? I'm sorry, Yoki, we can't. Funtown is not open for black people. Seeing my daughter cry was one of the most painful moments of my life. It only made me work harder for change. Was it easy? Absolutely not. During one protest in Birmingham, Alabama, the police again arrested me and locked me in a dark jail cell that had only one window. Someone slipped me a newspaper, in which white religious leaders had written an article calling us lawbreakers. Someone then snuck me a pen. In that jail cell, I wrote my own response in the margins of the newspaper and even on toilet paper. My letter from Birmingham jail was soon published as a pamphlet. Then it was in magazines and newspapers. Today it has been read by millions of people. Like I said, it is amazing how big words can be. Our message was so important, even kids your age joined in. In Birmingham, during the Children's Crusade, more than 1,000 kids, some as young as 6 years old, showed up to march. What do you want? Feed them. The first day, the police arrested 900 of them. The next day, 2,500 children showed up, ready to go to jail. This was our finest hour. Enraged that we were not giving up, the chief of police told the firemen to spray the children with water hoses and attack them with dogs. They thought it would stop us, but instead the whole country watched on TV what they were doing to our children. It was a wake-up call for the nation's conscience. How can they treat little kids that way? That's not right. We need to help them. 90 days later, the rules began to change. Now blacks and whites in Birmingham were using the same lunch counters, water fountains, and restrooms. You could feel it in the air. More change was coming. Freedom was contagious. By the summer of 1963, an estimated 1 million Americans held their own protests in cities across the country. A man named A. Philip Randolph suggested a massive march. If we march together peacefully, they won't be able to ignore us. Together, we can convince Congress and the president to pass laws so that no one in America can treat people differently based on skin color. I like that idea. Where should we have it? There's only one place. People came from almost every state. They came in nearly every form of transportation. They even took off work and did not get paid just to be there. Old people, young people, black people, white people, even children like you, they all came to Washington, D.C., gathering in a righteous army. Why? Because they wanted change. And they knew the surest way to change the world is to stand together. I am happy to join with you today in what will go down in history as the greatest demonstration for freedom in the history of the nation. On August 28, 1963, I stood at the podium and spoke what some later called my biggest words of all. I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream that one day little black boys and black girls will be able to join hands with little white boys and white girls as sisters and brothers. Let freedom ring from every mountain. Let freedom ring. After the March on Washington, the President and Congress passed new laws for civil rights, but that didn't mean our work was done. Indeed, our greatest battle was still to come. It began with 600 activists as they tried to walk 54 miles from Selma, Alabama to the state capital of Montgomery. Back then, there were rules that stopped black people from voting. If you want to change the laws, you have to be able to vote for new people who make the laws. We're marching to tell the governor we want voting rights. This brutality must end. No matter what, don't let them pass. The police had billy clubs and tear gas. They attacked our group and knocked many people down. But as I learned so long ago, you have to get back up. No matter how hard they hit us, we remained peaceful. Still, we didn't get through. 2 days later, we tried again. Now, there were 2,500 of us. We will get to Montgomery. No, you won't. I promise you won't. Once again, we tried. Once again, we did not get through. Did we give up? What do you think? It was Sunday, March 21st, 1965, our third try. Now we had 8,000 people with us. We are on the move. We shall overcome. For 2 days we marched. Rain could not stop us. The world was watching. The White House was too. President Johnson even sent troops to protect us. Check out the crowd. Black, white, Christian, Jewish, all standing together. Exhaustion could not stop us. As we reached Montgomery, Alabama, tears were shed. But this time, there were tears of joy. In my life, people tried to tell me I wasn't as good as they were, just because of the color of my skin. When someone hurts you like that, it can be tempting to hurt them back. You must refuse. When someone shows you hate, show them love. When someone shows you violence, show them kindness. To reach our goals, we must walk the path of peace. We must lock arms with our brothers and sisters. We must march together. When we do, our voices will be heard and freedom will ring. Remember Funtown Amusement Park? Its doors eventually opened to Black people, and Dr. King got to take his daughter. Did you know that he was the youngest person to win the Nobel Peace Prize at that time? Just 35 years old. He donated the prize to the Civil Rights Movement. He said that the prize was the work of many other unsung heroes. We fought against poverty too. There's even a national holiday for him, the third Monday of every January. Only Washington and Lincoln get a day like that, and they share theirs. It's a day to remember how far we've come and how much more work there is to do. I am Martin Luther King Jr. I stand for peace. I stand for justice. I stand to help others. I stand as proof that no matter how hard the struggle, we must fight for what is right and work to change what is wrong. Whatever struggle you face, no matter how hard it gets, you must always move forward. I am proof of this. If we rise up, if we stand together, if we remain united, nothing can stop our dream. Hey friends, today's story is called I Am John Lewis by Brad Meltzer. I am John Lewis. What should you do when you see something that's unfair? Should you ignore it? Should you walk away? Or should you march toward and try to make things better? Even as a little boy, I liked making things better. On our farm in Alabama, we fill a bucket with rain to water our vegetables and flowers. I loved making things grow, raising things up. There you go. On our farm, we raised cotton, peanuts, corn, and my favorite, chickens. No one else could tell the chickens apart, but I could. We had Rhode Island Reds, Bantams, and Dominiques. They each had their own personality, and though my family thought it was strange, I even named a few. Come on, Lil Pullet. Lil Pullet was my favorite. She followed me everywhere like a pet. Big Belle once fell down a well. We couldn't get her out for 5 days. Until we lowered down a basket with breadcrumbs. Darned if she didn't climb right in. Chickies! My parents told me to just feed them, but I'd always talk to them first. When I was 4 years old, an uncle gave me a Bible. By 5, I could read it by myself. At night, I'd pretend the chickens were my congregation. I was their preacher. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the children of God. They'd squawk at first, then settle down and get very still. To me, they seemed so vulnerable. I gave them love and they loved me back. That love and compassion is something I carried into the world. Yet, life wasn't easy. When I was growing up, Black people were treated very unfairly just because of the color of our skin. If you were Black, you couldn't sit next to a white person on a bus, use the same water fountain, or eat in the same restaurant. We can't sit inside with the white people? Just enjoy your drink, stay out of trouble. Even as a kid, I knew it wasn't fair. Here's the white school with the new playground. Here's my school, no playground. When I was a teen, the laws changed so that Black and white people wouldn't have different schools or be treated unequally. I was so excited. I bet they're gonna fix our school. But for us, nothing changed. Leave it be, stay out of trouble. My parents didn't want me making waves. My grandmother had a different approach. Back then, if you were Black and a white person came walking down the street, you were expected to cross to the other side. You better move to the other side. Thank you, but I'm fine where I am. My grandmother knew the rule was unfair, so she respectfully refused to accept it. You have a good day now. At 11 years old, I went to Buffalo, New York with my uncle. There, I was impressed that Black and white people worked together and even lived next door to each other. When I got back home, I realized that everyone didn't have the same chance at the American dream. Thankfully, there were other ways for me to see what the world had to offer. At my school library, I found magazines and newspapers with Black leaders who inspired me. My dear children, read. Read everything. Librarian Corrine Harvey. At 15, my life changed when I learned about Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and Rosa Parks. They inspired me to get into trouble, good trouble, necessary trouble, which means standing up against unfair treatment. Soon enough, I did just that. Since our town library was for whites only, I went inside and politely said, "I'd like to apply for a library card, please." When they refused, I circulated a petition around school. We never got a response, but that petition was a start, an action, and now I wanted to do more. During college, I finally got to meet my hero, Dr. King. I also met Jim Lawson, who would turn my world around. He taught a workshop on nonviolence using methods developed by Gandhi. It's called civil disobedience. It's how you change an evil system without violence. We must use passive resistance. What's that? Love. We'll use love and peaceful ways to change what's unfair in society. Right there, I knew that this is what I was meant for. Every Tuesday night in church, we practiced our nonviolent strategies. If someone screamed at you, you looked straight ahead and never dreamed of hitting or screaming back. Sometimes it's hard to keep calm. To do it, I try to remember that all people have the capacity for good. When you show your enemy love, it makes you a better human being. Our first trial run was at a department store. My whole life I was told I couldn't use the library or drink at the fountain or eat in the restaurant. I hated those rules, but I'd always followed them, until now. It's store policy not to serve colored people here. I was nervous, but I didn't let it stop me. Peacefully, calmly, I sat down. Eventually, we left without incident. A week later, we repeated it. Word began to spread. Soon, 4 students started a new sit-in in Greensboro, North Carolina. That grew to 10 students, then 85. In Nashville, our protest grew bigger as well. What started as a small sit-in was becoming a movement. "Ma'am, may we be served? We don't serve your kind here." It wasn't easy. Sometimes people attacked us. On this day, we were sent to jail. "We told you can't be in those seats." "We shall overcome." "Stop singing." But no matter how violent people got, we stayed true to our rules. Be friendly. Be courteous. Remember love and nonviolence. "We shall overcome." I said stop singing. It was my first arrest. It wouldn't be my last. When people bombed our lawyer's house, we kept calm, and we marched. It was the first mass march for civil rights that anyone had seen at such a scale. We marched in silence, Black and white protesters together. Soon after, Nashville became the first big southern city to give Black people the rights we deserved and let everyone sit together. But there was still so much work to do. We protested movie theaters that wouldn't sell tickets to Black people. "One ticket, please." "I can't serve you." We held freedom rides, protesting bus companies that wouldn't allow Black people on board. Each time, they called us names. Each time, they came at us with violence. Each time, they threw us in jail. But we never lost our calm, and we never ever stopped fighting for what was right. The question people ask me more than any other is simply, how do you do it? How do you let someone scream at you, hit you, yet you never raise your hand in self-defense? The answer is, I have faith. That doesn't mean it's easy. In fact, it's hard. But having faith means you believe in something so deeply, you'll figure out how to make a way out of no way. Strength like that can't be ignored. People joined us from around the country. Pastors, rabbis, teachers, all types of people. All of them making us stronger than ever. We need to march with them. That's not fair. We need to march. We should have our own freedom rides. We should go there and march. What do you want? Freedom? You could feel it. More change was coming. By 1963, 1 million Americans held their own protests. Two men named A. Philip Randolph and Bayard Rustin organized a peaceful march in Washington, D.C. At 23 years old, I was the sixth speaker. I was so nervous. My voice trembled at first, and then, to those who have said, be patient and wait, we must say that we cannot be patient. We do not want our freedom gradually, but we want to be free now. After the March on Washington, a new law, the Civil Rights Act, was passed, but it didn't include enough protections for voting rights. Black people were still being stopped from voting. To protest, 600 activists in Selma, Alabama, planned to walk 54 miles to the state capital of Montgomery. The governor said he would stop us. You know they're going to attack us. I know, but people want to march. We can't let them march alone. We walked 2 by 2, many of the people coming straight from church. When we got to the Edmund Pettus Bridge, a wall of state troopers blocked our way. Can you swim? No. Well, neither can I, but we might have to. This is an unlawful assembly. You have 2 minutes to turn around. Going forward would have led to violence. So I turned to my friend. We should kneel and pray, Hosea. Troopers, advance! I was the first to be hit. They knocked us down. They hit us hard. They sprayed us with a gas that stung our eyes. We remained peaceful, but we didn't make it across. That day was named Bloody Sunday. People around the country saw the violence faced by protesters. It made them realize how poorly Black people were treated. That's not right. We need to march with them. 2 days later, while I was recuperating, Dr. King came. This time, there were 2,500 people trying to make it across the bridge. We will get to Montgomery. No, you won't. I promise you won't. Like before, we tried. Like before, we stayed peaceful. Like before, we didn't make it across. Did that stop us? Not a chance. Our third try was on March 21st, 1965. Now we had 8,000 people. Together we marched for 5 days. My injuries were so bad they had to drive me home each night. It still didn't stop me. I marched 7 miles on the first day, 16 on the second, 11 on the third, 16 on the fourth, and then 6 miles on the final day. Check out the crowd. Black, white, Asian, Native American, Christian, Jewish, all standing together. I marched in the rain. I marched with my injuries. I marched and the whole world saw, including the White House. President Johnson sent in troops to keep us safe. We shall overcome. Eventually, we reached Montgomery, Alabama. Soon after, a new law, the Voting Rights Act, was passed and the voting rules began to change. But my work? It was just beginning. There's a time to march and there's a time to run. To change the laws, I needed to make the laws. In 1986, I was elected to the U.S. Congress, the second Black person in Georgia to ever win. I was arrested 5 times as a congressperson too, protesting whenever I thought people were being treated unfairly. My life is proof Protests can change the world. In my life, I was told to stay out of trouble, to stay quiet, to stay out of the way. That's definitely the easier path. But when you or someone else is being treated unfairly, it's not the right path. If something isn't right or just or fair, you need to say something, do something. Help those who need it. Make some noise and move your feet. Freedom only comes when people take action. Remember how his local library denied him a library card? John Lewis finally went back there in 1998 to sign his own book. The librarians celebrated him by finally giving him a library card. One of the great things he did in Congress was to help establish the National Museum of African American History and Culture. Go visit. In 2011, he was awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom, the nation's highest civilian honor. During the Civil Rights Movement, a man named Elwyn Wilson attacked John Lewis. In 2009, he was so embarrassed of his racism, he asked for forgiveness, the only one to ever do so. Without hesitation, John Lewis accepted his apology. I have faith in my dreams. I have faith in this country. I have faith that we can make a way out of no way, and in that I am unshakable. We are one people, we are one family, and now it's time for you to do your part. Stand up, speak up, be prepared to march. It's your turn now. I am John Lewis. I am never afraid to get in good trouble. And here we have a timeline of some of John Lewis's life. If you want to pause the video and look over some of those. The first picture is a picture of John Lewis. And the second picture is a picture of him while he was marching during the Voting Rights March movement in Selma in 1965. The third picture at the top is Martin Luther King Jr. in the middle. I have another video on him if you would like to check that out. And John Lewis is on the far right. He's the last one. And that's also a picture from the Voting Rights March in 1965. And the last picture on the bottom is a picture of John Lewis when he did one of his sit-ins. And he was actually being pulled from a lunch counter during his protest in Nashville in 1960.
Hey friends! Today we are reading about an African American hero named Rosa Parks. This book is called I Am Rosa Parks by Brad Meltzer. I am Rosa Parks. Growing up, I was small for my age. I was sick a lot too, since we didn't have money for a doctor. But that didn't mean I was weak. I'm not that short. Looks like you are. When I was 11, as I was walking home from school, a boy on roller skates came zipping by and shoved me. He thought I'd be an easy target. To his surprise, I turned around and pushed him back. I knew fighting was wrong, but I didn't want him picking on me again. Uh-oh, this is going to be bad. Did you just push my son? His mother saw what happened. She was mad that I'd pushed him. But you know what made her even madder? I was black, and her son was white. She immediately started yelling, "I'll have you put in jail. You'll never get out again." No question, it was scary, but my mother and grandfather taught me to respect myself and to expect respect from others. So instead of backing down, I stood my ground, and calmly but firmly I explained, "Your son was the one who pushed me. I didn't bother him at all." I wasn't just standing up to that mom or even to the boy on roller skates. I was standing up for myself. After that, the boy and his mom never bothered me again. Still, it's hard to change things. Sometimes it can take a long time. Back then, if you were black, you were treated unfairly just because of the color of your skin. You weren't allowed to live in the same neighborhood as a white person, eat in the same restaurant, ride the same elevator, or use the same bathroom. You couldn't even drink from the same water fountain. One was marked for whites, the other for coloreds. When I was little, I used to wonder if white water tasted different from colored water. I even wondered if colored water came in lots of colors. But it didn't. The only difference was I had to walk outside or even down the block to get mine. Of course, it wasn't just about water fountains. This was my school. A small, old wooden building with one room and one teacher. For all of us. Everyone from the 5-year-olds to the 6th graders were stuffed in that one room. There were no windows, desks, and barely any books. Since most kids had to work on a farm to earn money, we only went to school 5 months during the year. Let's school, hooray! Don't say hooray, that's bad. We also brought our books home every night. Why? Because we were worried that folks who hated the color of our skin would burn down our school. Now, here's the school for the kids who were white. Notice the difference? It was a new brick building with beautiful windows, new desks, and plenty of books, plus a playground. They went to school 9 months out of the year, since they weren't working in the fields like we were. Now can we say hooray? No, there's no hooray about this. Also, if you were black, you had to walk to school. If you were white, you got to take a bus. The worst part was, when I'd walk home with my brother, the kids on the bus would throw trash at us. It made me feel horrible. But there were no civil rights back then. The only solution was to move off the road. And really, what kind of solution is that? As I got older, things didn't change much. There's no room in here, lady. One winter, I was waiting for the local city bus. If you were black, you had to ride in the back. If you were white, you rode up front. On that day, the back of the bus was packed. But there were plenty of seats in the front. I was just trying to find a place to sit. But as I entered through the front door of the bus, what do you think you're doing? You need to get off and use the back door. Only whites can come in the front. But I'm already in. I tried to explain that there was no room to get in through the back. The driver didn't care. He wanted me off the bus. He grabbed me by my coat sleeve. I dropped my purse near the front door. To pick it up, I sat in the front seat, a white seat. It made the driver madder than ever. That's it, get out, get off my bus. That's what he called it, my bus, as if it were his. The bus wasn't his, though. It belonged to all of us. Still, that afternoon, the driver got his way. He kicked me off. See you soon. Yes, you will. But I promise you, that wasn't the last time I'd faced that bus driver. Tell me what happened next. From there, in addition to working as a seamstress, I started working to change things. At the NAACP, we fought for fairer laws and made sure that people's stories were heard. I also stopped using colored water fountains. I'd rather go thirsty than be treated so poorly.
Need a lift? No thanks.
It was the same with separate elevators. Instead of riding them, I'd take the stairs. But as for real change, even I didn't know what was coming. It was the end of a busy Thursday. I was 42 years old and on the bus going home. This time, I was sitting in the first row of seats that were allowed for black people. There was one man next to me and 2 women across from me. It was the same driver from before, the exact same one from all those years earlier. At the third stop, a few white people got on, filling the rest of the empty seats. There was one white person left standing, so the driver told those of us in my row, "Let me have those front seats." At first, none of us moved, but when he asked again, "Y'all better make it light on yourself and let me have those seats." The other 3 people got up. I stayed right where I was. Sliding over to the window, I thought about what he was demanding. He wanted to take my seat away. He wanted to give it to that man. And why? "Come on, get up!" Because I was black and the man was white. I knew what the rules said, but I also knew in my heart that's not how you treat people. Without a doubt, the driver was mad, but I never lost my cool, never raised my voice. "Are you gonna get up?" No. People say that the reason I refused to give up my seat was because I was tired. And I was, but it wasn't the kind of tired that came from aching feet. The only tired I was tired of giving in. "Well, I'm going to have you arrested." "You may go on and do so." Before me, there were other brave women who have refused to give up their seats. Still, on that day, for violating the rules of Montgomery, Alabama, I got arrested. But by standing up for myself, I ignited a movement. From there, the Montgomery bus boycott began. For 381 days, that's well over a year, all blacks in the city and even a few whites refused to ride the public buses. "But if you don't use the buses, we'll go out of business." Then maybe you should think about changing your rules. Finally, the rules were changed. Public buses were no longer allowed to separate people based on the color of their skin. That was only the beginning. Eventually, we were allowed to drink from the same water fountains, ride the same elevators, and yes, go to the same schools. In the Declaration of Independence, Thomas Jefferson wrote that we're all created equal. Finally, the nation was starting to act like it. Now can we say hooray? Soon we're close. Of course, that didn't mean the fight was over. There were thousands of other people just like that bus driver. But after hearing how I didn't give up my seat, there were now thousands more people just like me. Together, inspired, and committed to justice. My name's Martin. Want to hear a rough draft of my speech? You bet I do. In my life, people tried to knock me down, tried to make me feel less than I was. They teased me for being small, being black, being different. Let me be clear, no one should be able to do that. But if they try, you must stand strong. Stand for what's right. Stand up for yourself, even if it means sitting down. When you do, others will follow. What's the medal? It's the Congressional Gold Medal, one of the government's highest honors. George Washington got one too. Cool. Now can we say hooray? Go for it. Hooray! I am Rosa Parks. I'm not a politician or a president or an actor or a famous business owner. I'm just an ordinary person. But I'm also proof that there's no such thing as an ordinary person. I hope you'll always stand up for yourself, and I hope you'll remember that we're all in this together.
Hey, do you want to watch another video? Click right here. Click it, click it. Watch the next video too.